Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm with my friend Tom Hunyadi, who's a movie fan, big time. Got quite a collection. I mean, that's some of your collection over there, Tom, correct? On
Yes,
there?
that's some of it right over there.
Some of it. I know, not all of it.
Yeah.
And we're here to discuss one of my favorite films, and that's 1973's Soylent Green, which Tom is going to hold up the Blu-ray of there. I want to tell you how it began for me, I think, and how I really got into it. I remember back in, I'm guessing it was 73. Sometimes I think movies lasted in theaters a little longer back then. It might have been early 74 even. So I was
Mm,
either 11 or just turned 12, one or the other. And I remember that at the end of my block, I had some friends and their father wanted to take us to the movies. So uh, I went with this guy up the block and his little brother, and I went. The three of us, 11 years old, 12 tops, maybe just turned. And the double bill was Westworld with
mm,
Yul Brenner, which is one of my
yeah.
all time favorite films, and Soylent Green. Soylent Green, I think, maybe was like the bottom feature. Back then, you would have two films. You get double features. They're each about 90 minutes, give or take. You know, and what can I tell you? I don't remember every detail, but I know that Westworld, forget it, knocked my socks off. I mean, that was the first Terminator. That was before the Terminator. It was scary. It was fun. The first half was fun and it turned deadly serious later.
Mm,
And Soylent Green, which was all miserable and unpleasant and just horrible. And it was the kind of future you never wanted to see, right? I mean, it was
right.
a dystopian disaster. Let's hope we don't ever get to this. Now, I'm wearing my Soylent Green shirt here, and you see it says at the top, it's the year 2022. People are still the same. They'll do
Hmm.
anything to get what they want, or what they need. And what they need is Soylent Green.
Soylent Green.
And now, you can't see all of it because the way the frame is here, but there's a kind of a dump truck there, and there's a lot of people inside getting scooped up and
Yep.
screaming, and they're trying to clear the streets because there's a lot of protests and a
Riding.
lot of fighting and anarchy in the streets. Sound like anything that we know? I don't know.
Hmm.
Because back then, this was filmed in 72. It was filmed in
72.
72, so it was a look into the future of New York in 2022, the future, which is now here. And I wanted to make this video and have this discussion earlier this year, 2022. I wanted to do this in January, but it didn't happen. As I say hello to one of our viewers. Hello, L7. And I just, one thing led, all this craziness, one thing led to another, delay, delay, delay. Here we are. So before the year's over, let's do it. Because that's what made me want to do it, because 2022. I got this
Right.
special shirt just because of that. So anyway, yeah. Before I let Thomas talk a little about this, 'cause I'm sure he's got a lot to say. I just loved it. It was like, scary, unpleasant. And I remember how unpleasant it felt, dark and dreary and no hope of anything, and people just, out for themselves and not getting along, and the government is crooked, and uh, people are also in this film, the future, are going around wearing face masks. Not everybody, but a lot of people are wearing
Mm,
face masks. That sounds familiar. You know
yeah.
what I mean? I mean, we're talking about in the movie. I think they're doing it because maybe just the air quality is
Pollution.
pollution. Uh, the heat is like the greenhouse effect, climate
Greenhouse
change,
effect. There you
right?
go. Yep. Yeah.
90 degree, over 90, and everybody running around with these masks on all the time. So it's kind of close to where we are now. Thankfully, not as close, because the theme of the movie, it comes from a novel. I forget the name of the author, maybe, but he had a novel called "Make Room, Make Room."
Harry Harrison.
Harry Harrison, And I was going to say that, but it sounded like a disc jockey. Then I knew, so I didn't know if the name was right. But yeah, he had the novel, and Charlton Heston wanted to do it because he believed that the population explosion was like one of the most serious things we were facing then, and everything. So he wanted to do it. Now let me just get a word about Charlton Heston. Charlton Heston is my favorite actor. And I don't say that necessarily because I think he is literally like the best, most talented actor per se, but because I grew up with him as a science fiction hero. Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the Omega Man, which is another favorite that I saw in the theater at 9 years old, and Soylent Green. He was like this action hero, the Stallone or Schwarzenegger of his day, maybe whatever. And he was going to save the world and all this kind of thing. And then I saw him in the Ten Commandments as Moses and Ben Hur and all these heroic roles and versatility. And I thought I like this guy. Um, so that's my story of how I first got into this movie and first saw it. I think saw it at least twice in the theater at a later time. Both of these movies are rated, I believe, PG, Westworld and Soylent Green, but back
Hmm.
then PG movies had a lot of violence in them at times.
True.
So, Tom, why don't you tell us, about your experience with the movie and what you
Well,
think
yeah,
about it?
thanks. Thanks, Joe. Well, seeing that I was only 8 days old when the movie premiered
Eight
back in
days.
70,
Ah,
April 19th of 73, I didn't get to see it firsthand. But I'll tell you, working in the restaurant business for many, many, many years, I would often hear somebody would say, "Soylent Green is people," and
right.
that's just like it was just a running joke in the kitchen, and I was always, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
you
that's the
know,
cliche. Now
uh,
everybody knows the
that's
line.
right, exactly. And especially when they were cooking burgers, if you had like a square shaped burger, it was just, people having a good time laughing about that. And it wasn't really until probably, you know, uh, late 2000s when I think this was not late 2000s, sorry, late 90s when DVDs started to come out. And, I'd always heard of Soylent Green and, the famous line and whatever. So, I finally decided to check it out, and it wasn't this, but I did pick up the DVD back in the late '90s, early 2000s, or whatever it was, and really enjoyed it. And I just thought this was like, you see futuristic movies, right? And then you're like wondering, okay, would any of this ever come true? And you're like hoping that part of, the stuff, some of the stuff in this film would never actually come true. Like, would you ever see like big trucks, scooping people up and, and putting them in the back of the truck,
And all they
for
do is
rioting?
climb out of the truck again anyway, right?
Exactly. It was nowhere near as scary as,
Yeah,
on your
there's a good
shirt
image of
and
it.
on the cover. You know what I mean? It's never that scary. But in the film, the poster really did a good job of, of building up this scene in the movie that really is nowhere near the poster. But I tell you what, Charlton Heston is really fantastic in this film. I love the chemistry between Charlton Heston and Edward G. Robinson, who unfortunately this was his 101st film
And
and
final
last
film.
and final film in this movie. And there's some other aspects of this film too that depict the future in a certain way that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But man, this is the kind of film that you can watch, over and over again, and you pick up something, that you may have missed, the first or second time that you watched. So I really like this movie a lot.
One thing about it when we talk for a minute about Charlton Heston again. Now, yes, I like him. I can watch him just
Mhm.
about anything.
Right.
I like him in this film. I think he's good. But it could be objectively speaking. Now, as much as I like him, I think he's a little miscast in one way, and I'll tell you why.
Mm.
Um, when I watch a lot of modern movies, I always have a complaint. I say, why do they always have to have kids in there, like or
Right.
hunks, or these guys, or college kids? It's always got to, if it's a cop or somebody, they're always 21 or 23. In this
Hmm.
particular movie, when Charlton Heston shot this movie, he was still 49. He was almost 50.
Hmm.
He's. So he's 49, I believe. Too old for the character, I think. I think he's playing younger.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
it makes you feel like all of the way it is in the film was a lot longer than what it really was. I mean, I think Edward G. Robinson was only 30 years, older, and for his character, yeah, it made more sense, I think. But yeah, I see your point where maybe he was too old to like certain scenes when he's in the investigating the murder. He's in his apartment and he's looking at in the bathroom and like wow soap,
Yeah,
and
soap, a whole cake.
yeah, okay, and running water,
Yeah.
shower, it probably would have made more sense to cast maybe a younger actor for that
Yeah,
role.
in
I
this
do agree
regard,
with you.
somebody that was like 21, 22, who
Hmm.
really does, because the whole thing is Edward G. Robinson plays an older guy who
Right.
remembers what the so-called, good old days were like,
Right.
when you had, running water. You could get your own water.
Hmm.
You didn't have to wait online
Food
for
everywhere.
rations,
Yeah.
and food anywhere
Yeah.
you went, you could buy it. And strawberries didn't cost $150 a jar, like a little jar of
Right.
strawberries. And he keeps telling the Charlton Heston character, "You don't know any better. You don't remember in my day. Food was
Hmm.
food in my day." But this guy's like, well, he's playing younger. I don't think he's supposed to be 50 in the movie. I think he's
Right.
supposed to be like 30s maybe, or something. But if you had a guy that really looked young, that really, he didn't know anything else because he's only like 20. He's only remembers. I mean, I don't know at what
Mhm.
point in the movie they don't really say at what point did things go bad.
Yeah,
Uh,
good point there because there's that great montage right at the beginning of the
yeah.
film where you see the progression of technology and ecology and all this stuff and big business and how they got to that point, right? But there's
Hmm.
never really a sense of, they don't really they leave it to you to kind of like guess, when when the hammer actually fell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now it's just this overpopulation, food is scarce, and everybody's left to fend for themselves pretty
Yeah,
much.
there's not enough food to feed the
Hmm.
population. I forget the number at the beginning again in New
40,
York
yeah,
City.
40 million people.
40 million people in New York, and half of them are out of work. 20 million of them
Yeah.
are unemployed. People have to
Hmm.
sleep in the streets. People have to sleep anywhere they can find a spot in the stairwell of Charlton Heston's
Hmm.
little tiny one room dwelling that he's in. He's got a staircase. People asleep on the staircase. He steps on people, tries to avoid stepping on people as he goes
Right.
down the stairs to go to work because he plays a detective, cop,
Hmm.
cop, and one of the idea of the movie is that there's Joseph Cotton, who's an old veteran, great Joseph Cotton,
Yeah.
plays a what do you call it? A big mogul, the
Well, yeah, he's on the board of the Soylent
Soylent
company,
board.
and I believe he was a lawyer at one point, and now he's involved with the Soylent company.
Yeah, somebody murders him. Somebody murders him. He's assassinated in his apartment. He's one of the few rich people, and he
Mm-hmm.
knows the secret. He knows what's going on. And with the Soylent Corporation, Soylent controls the food supply, and they have all these different things: Soylent Red, Soylent
Mm-hmm.
Yellow, Soylent Green is a cracker, little cracker that they all they have to eat. They make this, and
Right.
it's green. And the idea, that's the title, Soylent Green. And the idea is, why is this the head of this? Well, not the head, but he's one of the
Right.
big shots here. Is getting murdered because apparently he must have seen a priest and made a confession, and he told
Mm-hmm.
the priest, what's going on, what these people are doing, which is they're making. It's no surprise to tell you this because everybody knows Soylent Green is people now. Everybody knows. It's not a spoiler. They're
Mm-hmm.
making the people into food. When they die, so there's not enough food, so they're actually eating people. Uh, so that's the idea of it, and that's the big secret. In the commercial, the original ads, as you can see easily if you go on YouTube, as I said, what is the secret of Soylent Green? And a lot of people who put the movie down, a lot of critics, they say Charlton Heston tries to unravel the mystery of what Soylent Green actually is, and you'll find out long before he does. As if like it's so obvious what it is. I don't know about if I thought about that when I first saw the movie. I don't think I really put it
Right.
together, but
Hmm.
that's the idea of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so he's investigating the murder of the big shot.
Right.
That why did he
Right. And
get
but the thing
murdered?
is like he's a good guy, but he's also like a corrupt good guy because
Yeah,
when he
yeah,
because he's still taking things.
yeah. He steals whatever he
Yeah,
can get.
he
He
steals
goes,
whatever he wants. I mean,
you,
yeah,
you know,
he
that's
steals
funny.
the food, steals the booze, steals other objects,
Yeah,
steals two very important books, right?
yeah.
That were in his home. So
Pencils,
yeah,
pencils. You can't
yeah,
get pencils
pencils,
anymore.
paper, right? Yeah.
And
So so yeah, he is kind of a good guy, but he's also taking advantage. He's in a high level position, and he's taking advantage of his power as well, which is something that's been going on, in the beforehand and after,
yeah.
after the film. So,
And the young lady who's in her 20s here, played by Lee Taylor Young,
yes.
is a really pretty girl, and she
Hmm.
is referred to in the film as all women are. She's referred to as furniture. She's a piece of
Furniture,
furniture. That's all.
right?
That's one thing these days. In 2022, for real, you don't do. You can't. You don't say.
Right,
But that was. But with women's lib going on then, and all the stuff that went on when this was made,
right.
that's what
Well,
they
I
were
can
thinking.
see how that would have offended women back then too, because like you
Oh
said,
yeah,
I mean that was the height, of women's lib and all that. So you know, it would have been kind of interesting to see, since I was only 8 years old, if there were women speaking out about the film,
yeah. I
and
don't
how they
remember any.
portrayed women.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was too young to know. I don't know in history if they did, if they were complaining about it. But the idea of that furniture business is that when you rent an apartment,
Right.
a girl comes along with the apartment as your furniture, so to speak.
Hmm.
So there's a kind of a really awkward kind of, I don't know if I'd say love affair that goes on right in the movie between
Right.
Charlton Heston and this girl who's a piece of
Right.
furniture, quote. Uh,
and and it's amazing how he just uses her, just like he steals stuff from that apartment too. It's like he's almost
yeah.
like now he's in, he's like almost owns her in a way, just like he's taking things, from the apartment. So
Yeah,
really
there's that
interesting.
scene in there. There's a scene in there where he's like,
Yeah.
he meets her the first time because he's investigating, and that
Right.
rich guy played by Joseph Cotton, that was his so-called furniture. So
Hmm.
when Heston goes over there to investigate after the man gets assassinated, she's there, and looks for an excuse to see her a couple of times. Yes, I'm still investigating. I got to come back. And the
Yeah.
second time, I think he's like,
Yes.
on the
All
bed.
right. Yeah.
Get on the
Let's
bed.
go.
you know, and she's like, she doesn't even think about it. She says,
Uh,
okay, like whatever.
well,
It's, it's terrible.
he's testing out all the furniture, making sure that it
I,
still works all right.
and then by the end of the movie, I think they have feelings for each other. It's not just
Right,
a
she
matter of that.
does, and then there's that last time he sees her, and now he mentions that, as furniture, and she says, "Please don't talk to me like that."
Yeah, and he goes, okay. Okay, you got it, and that's enough of that. Because
Right,
he says
but
you're a hell of a piece of furniture.
yeah,
It's terrible.
yeah, you can't do that nowadays, really.
No.
But I will say Joseph Cotton. I was really, at the first time I saw it, I was like, here's a big name, right? Big name from the past. Really small role. So I
Yeah.
mean, imagine at this point in time, he's older. He's getting any work that he can.
That's for
So
sure. That
yeah,
same year, he shot a movie
yeah,
called, or the year before, a movie called Lady Frankenstein, which is one of the
that's
worst
right.
movies. Terrible horror, cheesy schlock horror movie
We
from, I
should
think it's
review that
Italian.
one day.
It's Italian.
Yes, that's right.
And, so sometimes it's fun though to see these guys. We call it. We sometimes I used to know this guy, a friend of
Mhm.
mine. We would say he's collecting booze bucks. When you get older,
Right.
so just to have drinking money. You know, he,
It's interesting when you see those big those Hollywood stars from the 40s and 50s, and then into the 70s and 80s, the roles they were getting in these cheap sci-fi horror films.
yeah, a lot of them had to do movies like that. I mean, like
Yeah,
Basil Rathbone. I'm thinking of a lot of
Joan
people.
Crawford.
Oh yeah, Joan Crawford was in Trog,
Yeah,
and among other
Straight
things.
Jacket.
Straight Jacket. Yeah, yeah, a lot of things like that. Yeah, that's what happened to a lot of these people. Um, so what else can I say? Oh, also in the film is Chuck Connors,
Yep.
who he's known for the TV show The Rifleman mostly,
Hmm.
but he's done a lot of stuff. But he's really good in
Oh.
there too. And there's a great fight scene between uh, Chuck Connors and Charlton Heston when Charlton Heston beats the crap out of him. That I
Hmm.
love. It's a great fight scene. But he plays a bodyguard. He's actually a bodyguard for Joseph Cotton, the rich man,
Right.
and he's one of the suspects. Like because when this guy got assassinated, this old guy, Chuck Connors, the bodyguard, was conveniently out somewhere else. He wasn't there. He stepped out somewhere so that I guess the assassin could
Yes.
get easy access to him. So he's a suspect. And Brock Peters also is in this, who's
Yep.
African American sergeant or what I don't know what you call. I never know what the ranks are.
He's
Chief
like
of
the
police or
sergeant,
something.
chief of police.
He's
Yeah, he's in charge. Yeah.
Charlton Heston's boss.
Hmm.
And back then in those days when they made this, that was probably a little more unusual.
A little
So
taboo.
that was like this was the future. Was going to
Hmm.
be so that was good. And he's good. I like him in that. And yeah, Edward G. Robinson is really terrific, like you were saying. He's old, and in real life, he was really hard of hearing and deaf.
Hmm.
And the director Richard Fleischer, who directed this movie, says in the commentary for this, which is a really interesting audio commentary, that he
Yeah.
would say "cut" sometimes, and he would keep going because he didn't know he couldn't hear him. That
Right.
he said "cut" and
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
In Charlton Heston's book, he wrote that Edward G. Robinson. Nobody knew that Edward G. Robinson was sick, and
right.
that he was the consummate pro, the always on time, always professional, never complained or anything like that. And unfortunately, 12 days after the wrapping of the film, he passed.
And supposedly the death scene is a death scene in
Hmm.
Soylent Green for Edward G. Robinson was the last scene he ever filmed, and he knew it would be the last work he'd ever do as he was filming it, which makes it
Right.
all the more poignant. That's such a powerful scene because
It
as
is.
the future is in this, they have is the word euthanasia? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Hmm.
The term where you things are so bad that they actually encourage suicide, assisted suicide.
Suicide
So
assisted.
you
Yep.
can go to this place. It looks like a big airport.
Hmm.
In fact, I remember like when I first, one of not first, when I watched this on videotape once, my grandmother was watching with me, and he went to this thing, and she thought he was going to the airport to catch a plane, but actually it looks like a big airport, but it's
Right.
all people are lining up, people that just had enough
Right.
to they can
Well,
have their
yeah.
lives ended peacefully.
Right. Because in the scene when he's decided this is what he was going to do, he's saying I'm going to go home.
I'm going
So you
home.
really
Yeah.
I'm going home. So you really don't know that it's going to end up turning into a an assisted suicide scene, which again, another thing that's kind of like almost predicted in this. I mean, because you really didn't hear about that kind of thing back then, and it wasn't really until the 90s when you started hearing more about assisted suicide, thanks to one Dr. Jack Kevorkian.
Yeah. And there's a line earlier in there where he's getting disgusted and he's talking to Charlton Heston. In the movie, they're roommates,
Hmm.
because basically Edward G. Robinson is what they call a book. They don't have any books anymore. So they have like these older people that kind of act as books. Like, I don't know,
Right.
to help you get you information, to assist Charlton Heston in his police work, you know. and that's the idea of it. He's trying to help him out. And there's one part where he's getting disgusted, Edward G. Robinson's character, and he's like, he says to him, I should have gone home long ago.
Yeah.
He says, and he goes, come on, I need you.
Right.
Oh, geez.
There you go.
My phone.
Yeah.
That's my ringtone I have. It's the end of the world as we know it. Okay, that's how much I can't stand 2020, 2022. But anyway, so I've seen the movie hundreds of times, it seems, so I know every line. That's why
Hmm.
we that should have gone home long ago. And Heston's like, "Come on, I need you." He's basically saying, "I should have went home to heaven or whatever. I should have."
Right.
So when he writes a letter later on, a note to Heston and says, I'm going home."
Right.
Heston, a little red light goes off, and he says that means he's
Yeah,
going
he
to the
knows.
the
Yeah.
euthanasia place, and it's a very emotional scene as Heston goes in there to this building where they put you to sleep peacefully. What they
Hmm.
do is they ask you what your favorite color is,
Yep.
right? And then they ask you what's your favorite music you like to listen to, and they basically
Hmm.
put you in a room that's kind of flushed in the color that you like,
Hmm.
and they play this. In this case, Edward G.
Light.
Robinson's character, right, loves classical music, or as he
Light
says,
classical.
yes, light
Like.
classical. With me, it would be I'd be listening to Tomorrow Never Knows or something probably, or whatever. But and then he loves orange color, so everything's orange, and they show you on a screen
Hmm.
images, films of the world when it was a beautiful place. They had flowers and animals and gorgeous meadows and mountains and all these, and then
Untampered. Yeah. Landscapes.
yeah,
Yeah.
before things got polluted and everything, and then you got Charlton Heston's character he tries to save him, but he's too he can't do anything really, but he gets to he that's an emotional thing where Heston gets to see all this through the
Right.
screen. He's like
And
looking
he's
through the
probably
glass.
seeing things that he had never seen before.
Yeah, he's never seen these things before, so that's pretty touching. Anyway, yeah, so I'm telling you the whole movie if you haven't seen it, but still
Well,
watch it.
yeah, let's. You should still go to the least to the end, the last scene where by this time he's already been to the Soylent Green plant, and he's seen how the product is well made, I guess you could say. But that last scene going into the I guess church or
Yeah,
wherever
sure.
whatever you want to call it, yeah, where all the poor people are staying, and then that final scene, then which I gotta say, Charlton, he's had some really great quotes and films and quotes, right? Get your damn stinking paws off me,
Yeah.
he's had some great quotes over the years. And that last one is no exception. But I had remembered it like he's like being carried off in like outside in the public, and he's screaming what it is. I completely forgot, you know, that it was just actually in the church, and he's yelling it. I had always thought that it was something bigger than what it was.
Ah, yeah.
You know, so but that's how I remembered it until I watched it again earlier this year.
Because the idea, I guess, is when you die, they kind of there's no like
Right.
funeral or anything. Pretty much, they just take you away and put you in
Take you
a
right to the Soylent plant.
sanitation
Yeah.
truck as
Right.
garbage, and they take you and they make you into a cracker. Really, I
Right.
remember that's a funny story. I remember when I first got the VHS tape. This is
Mm,
1982, so the movie's only like not out 10 years yet. And I remember I was watching it with a friend of mine. He never saw it. And his father came over and he was watching the movie. He goes, oh, I saw this. He had a funny voice. I saw this in the theater. I remember. He goes, and if I remember correctly, he becomes a cracker at the end, which is like they don't show they don't literally show you him being a cracker, but he dies. So I guess I'm telling the ending of the movie. Don't see the
mm,
movie anyway. So
right.
basically, tries to fight the good fight, but I just remember him saying this sounded funny. I never thought of it. I guess in a way, yeah. I guess ultimately that's what's going to happen. But he's trying to warn everybody. Listen, Soylent Green is people.
Yeah.
Listen to me. Nobody believes him or anything. And I always wondered if they could do a remake of this. The problem is everybody already knows what
Well,
the
you'd have to put a
outcome
different
is.
twist on it. Yeah, you'd have
Yeah,
to
you'd
put a
have to do
different
something
twist on
else.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they, already, but like, what is he? What do we do about
Right.
it, kind of thing. But yeah, what can I say? And they don't make them like that anymore. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I
And I like the I also like the green tint that you see out in the outdoor scenes. To
yes,
kind of show the effect, the greenhouse effect, and how it's and the pollution, and how it has affected the world. I mean, it's heat, like you said. I mean, it's 90. Charlton Heston's discovering air conditioning probably for the first time while he's in
yeah, air
the
conditioning.
apartment. Yeah. So
And
good
I'm
stuff.
trying to think, like, there's another line I like in it. Some people might know Dick Van Patten from
There you go. Yeah, little
from Eight Is
cameo from
Enough, and
him. Yeah,
there's a scene in there where he finds out that his friend Edward G. Robinson is going to go commit or assisted suicide. So he goes in there trying to stop it, and at one point he gets one of the technician is played by Dick Van Patten, and he
right.
goes in. There's a line I like where he says, "I'm sorry, you missed the ceremony or something." He grabs hold of it, goes, "It says, open that damn thing right now, or I swear to God you'll die before he does."
You-
Because he's. I love that line. It's
Um,
great, but yeah. So that's Soylent Green. Any other thoughts? I think we pretty much covered it all.
yeah, it covered it. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you check it out. I mean, especially since it takes place in the year 2022. You'll notice some similarities. I mean, Harry Harrison. I mean, he predicted some stuff. Is pretty close to you know what it is now. So for that, I mean, I'd say that's pretty amazing. But yeah, check it out.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you so much for being here and helping me with this. It's great, and we'll do more. Thank you all.
Yes.
Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell, ding ding, and all that stuff. All right, everybody. So remember, Tom, before we leave, you do the final line. Don't remind everybody of the final line.
I was at the grocery store earlier today, and I was hoping I could find some kind of like green cracker or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But unfortunately, nothing like that. Because if there was, I could, scream, "Soylent Green is people! It's
Amen.
people!"
All right, everybody. Take care and live well.
Yes.
See ya.